Briefcase Crimes contains graphic descriptions of violent events, loud dog noises, and very bad jokes, and is not suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome, listeners, to Briefcase Crimes.
I'm Hannah, and I have a head full of horrific events.
And I'm Liz, and I have a head full of morbid curiosity.
Elizabeth.
Hannah.
Are you ready for this week's episode?
Ready as I'll ever be.
I don't think you are. I don't think you're ready for this specific jelly. Today we're going to be talking about a team, kind of. A pairing. A coupling.
Bonnie and Clyde?
A little bit. So,
yeah.
You are my best friend.
Mm-hmm.
This is a pair of best friends.
Oh, how sweet.
Yeah. It's very sweet. We call each other, you're my BFF soulmate.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to imagine that these two are also BFF soulmates.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
I'm
looking at your face, and you just are, so excited.
Yeah, buckle up. This is a good one. So last week we traveled to Italy.
Mm-hmm.
This week we'll be traveling all the way across the world to New Zealand.
Ooh, I've always wanted to go to New Zealand.
I have too. Your brother has been.
I know. He always gets to go fun places until the Rona happened. Now he doesn't even go to the office.
Now he just stays home.
Yep.
Let's begin. This is a little tricky because we have to talk about two different people, so we've got two different backstories, and then they get together.
Okay.
Their names are Pauline Parker and Juliet Hulme.
Okay.
So we'll begin with Pauline Parker. Pauline Yvonne Parker was born in 1938 in New Zealand. Her parents were... This is not normally a thing I would get into, but it does become important-ish later.
Mm-hmm.
Her father and her mother lived together and went by the same last name. They went by the last name of Rieper, R-I-E-P-E-R.
Okay.
They're from the town of Christchurch in New Zealand. Everyone in Christchurch knew her mother and Pauline as Honora Rieper and Pauline Rieper. That was what they were known as. Until later, when it came out that they weren't actually married, they were just living together.
Mm.
And it was in the 50s, so they had to go by her maiden name of Parker.
Yeah, scandalous.
Yes, so everything that you read about these two calls her Pauline Parker.
All the women we talk about are scandalous. Every single one.
Oh, these ones have some scandal as well. We'll get into it. So she's born in 1938, and she is a sickly little girl. At the age of 5, she develops osteomyelitis. So I immediately looked this up because, not only because I don't know what it is, but also because my own condition, which is myalgic encephalomyelitis, I was like, oh, we have a similar myelitis, right? From what I can tell, though, osteomyelitis is just like a bone infection.
Oh, gosh.
Like an infection of specific bones or joints in your bones. I don't know where the myelitis comes in.
Mm-hmm.
Because to my knowledge, not being a medical doctor, but having a condition that has encephalomyelitis. Myelitis is an inflammation of your myelin that surrounds your nerves,
mm-hmm.
which is what my condition has. So I don't know if it's like a bone infection that causes nerve issues or not. I'm not certain. But she gets this bone infection.
Mm-hmm.
And in 1948, she's going to the Christchurch Girls' High School. She is now 10. And she meets a girl named Juliet Hulme. Now, Juliet was born in London, and her father, Henry Hulme, was a physician.
Mm.
Some things say physician, some things say physicist, and those two things are completely different.
Yeah.
So I'm unsure. But he was an educated man. He moved the family to New Zealand from England,
mm-hmm.
from London, to become the rector of the University of Canterbury in Christchurch.
Okay.
And he moves the family to this house. So he moves them to a suburban home, but the house, they name it, or it is already named when they get there. It's called Hulme. Pauline is from a working class family. Her father, I think, sold fish, was a fisherman. So you have one girl is working class, one girl is upper class, and yet they become friends. One has a house with a name, which is very fancy, like an estate, and the other definitely does not. I don't think that they were incredibly poor. I just think they were not on the level of the Hulme family.
Sure.
Being like the rector of a university.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So they meet each other at Christchurch Girls High School, and they bond immediately because when Juliet was a child, she developed tuberculosis. And she even at points was sent to the Bahamas to like recover.
I want to be sent to the Bahamas to recover.
I know. See, that's the other thing here is like you and I are best friends. You and I have chronic illnesses that we bond over. Right. That's not what bonded us at first.
No.
But that is something that developed later.
Very relatable.
That we are able to bond over. So yeah, they had a similar thing where it was like, oh my gosh, you're sick, I'm sick. Let's talk all about my inflamed bones.
Yeah.
And your lungs. So not only are they bonding over the idea of like we both have illnesses, but Pauline Parker kept a diary, and according to accounts that she has written in there, they both kind of romanticized that idea of like sickness being a romantic thing.
Interesting.
I mean, you see that in a lot of media, I think, where I think it's referenced in The Fault in Our Stars. I think he named one of the band The Hectic Glow. That was an idea of people being sick and showing this hectic glow of like, I don't know. It's like people are drawn to you because you're sick.
Yeah. That's always something too where I hate when sickness gets romanticized, like, oh, you're such an inspiration for all you do because you're sick, and that kind of meh. I don't love that.
Or look at how many pieces of media, whether it be movies, TV, books, where the main character has some sort of sickness, and that makes them more interesting.
Right.
It's not there to be like, it's not a book about illness.
No.
It's just they're interesting because they have this illness.
Right.
I don't have time to be interesting. I'm too busy being sick.
Yeah, exactly.
My illness is not interesting. It is just annoying.
The only thing interesting about our illnesses are the names.
Yeah.
It's like, it sounds so like crazy, and then you're like, oh no.
No, I'm just tired. Well, that's why I tend to call my illness ME. Myalgic encephalomyelitis, rather than what we call it here in the States, which is CFS, or chronic fatigue syndrome. Because I think they tried to make it like more relatable, easier to say. Yeah. But they took one symptom and they were like,
yeah,
that. Yeah. There's so many other facets to it. But CFS. So I tell people I have ME instead of CFS because when I say CFS, people are like, well, I'm tired too.
Oh, you don't know tired. You don't have kids.
You're too young to be tired.
Yeah. My favorite is when I tell people my joints hurt and they're like, you're too young to have bad knees. And I'm like, tell my knees that.
Exactly. Tell my body that it's too young for this. My sister and my brother-in-law always say, you're like a 90-year-old woman. Yeah. And I'm like, try being 27 and feeling like a 90-year-old woman. Right. And then we'll talk. Walk a mile in my compression hose, lady. So maybe they had a similar, no one understands me because nobody else was sick like I was.
Yeah. Especially when you think of the stigma, too. Like, we're really just getting to a place in 2020 where it's okay to outwardly talk about something that's wrong with you. So I can only imagine, being a young girl in times like those where most likely their family probably was trying to hide what was going on. you know, that would be such a feeling of solidarity where you ordinarily wouldn't have it.
Yes. So they become friends, and the families are really excited about this.
Mm-hmm.
You know, not only, I think every parent wants their child to have that good friend.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want your kid to be like, have no friends. And
Right.
having a best friend is a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time. So the families are excited. They're going over to each other's houses frequently. So Pauline is visiting Elam a lot, or Elam a lot. So she becomes sort of enamored by their lifestyle. They are obviously living a little bit of a different life than her.
Right.
I just double checked. Her dad, he managed the city fish shop.
Mm.
So he sold fish.
Mm-hmm.
And these girls were very creative. They not only, I told you that Pauline kept a diary, they were always writing. Like, they wrote together.
Mm-hmm.
And they built this entire world together. They built this fantasy world. They would write these fantasy books. Their plan was to take these books eventually. They're going to take all of this stuff and they're going to go to the United States. And they're either going to get it published or it's going to get made into movies. Like, they're going to go take this writing and they're going to make it into something much bigger than that.
Sure.
They invent their own religion.
Okay. That's a big leap.
Yeah, they're very inventive.
Some, like, L. Ron Hubbard vibes over here.
Yes, exactly. They create their own religion and they have their own ideas about morality and what is right and wrong.
Uh-huh.
So they reject Christianity. They make up their own saints. I don't know if they made up their own saints or if they just picked different saints to worship.
Yeah.
But they make different saints. Your Catholic face right now.
Well,
I grew up Protestant, so we didn't have saints.
right.
So I have no reaction to that.
So Scott doesn't love saints. Like, that's something that we talk about religion a lot, which he is very knowledgeable about the Bible. He's one of the few people I know who has read it front to back more than one time. And he always has this issue with the saints because it's not in the Bible. He takes issue with a lot of stuff, and not just for Catholicism, but other organized religions that are based off of the Bible because they just made stuff up like that. Like, the saints are technically made up, you know. But in my saint knowledge brain, which is not a ton of knowledge, but I'm kind of like, they had to have taken, I assume, saints that already existed and changed things, or else they're just imaginary people. They're, you know, allegory or something. So I'm like, okay, were they real people? Were they allegory? Like, what's the basis? It's like why I look confused, because my brain is trying to work it out.
Like, how they would have done that.
Right.
Get your bingo card out, because
Ooh.
there are several books about this, and I didn't read any of them.
You know.
There is a book about this that has been on my list of I want to read it, even before we were doing this, but I just haven't got around to it. So,
Yeah.
I mean, at the end, I'll discuss the media portrayals of these two. But there is a book about this. I didn't read it. Mark your bingo card. That could honestly be the free space.
That's really good.
So I'm sure that if you read the book, you would know more about how they developed this religion. But they develop their own religion, they make their own saints, and they create this thing called the fourth world. And the fourth world is a parallel dimension, and that is essentially their version of heaven.
Okay. I'm like, what's like the second and third world?
This did not catch on like L. Ron Hubbard.
Yeah, clearly.
I mean, maybe it could.
There's time. Weirder things have happened.
It's 2020. Maybe this is what the world needs.
Maybe.
My mother, who is not listening, but if she is listening, Mother, that was a joke. Tam, you don't listen to this because you don't like true crime, but if you are listening, that was a joke. They make this religion. They got their saints. They got the fourth world, their heaven. And not only is the fourth world there, this parallel dimension, but they can enter it on occasion.
Just like when they feel like it.
They can slip in and out of it when they want, when they're having spiritual enlightenment moments.
Going into the avatar state.
Yes, they're going into the Avatar state. They're seeing giant versions of themselves. They gotta open their chakras.
Right.
According to Pauline, they were able to achieve this spiritual enlightenment and enter the fourth world because of their bond. Their friendship was allowing them to do this.
I see.
That was how close they were.
Mm-hmm.
They were so codependent close that when Pauline would go over and like hang out at Elam, because later her tuberculosis like reappeared or reflared. I'm not sure. I thought like you had it and then you got better, but she gets tuberculosis again or it flares back up and she has to go to a sanitarium for a while. But then she comes home because her parents can like keep her. And they call Pauline, and Pauline comes and, like, stays at Elam for an extended period of time with her, which is really nice.
Yeah.
But it is said that, like, when Pauline would be there for an extended period of time or overnight or for the weekend or whatever, when Pauline would leave, Juliet would, like, get sick.
Oh, my.
Yeah. I get really sad when we visit and then it's time to leave, but I don't get sick.
Right.
Like, I'm not getting worse because I'm not with my friends anymore.
You know, I'm taking that extremely personally, that I don't mean enough to you for you to get sick when I leave you.
I mean, there's a lot in this story that you don't mean enough to me to do, like, anything that happens.
That's probably a good thing. I'm sure I'll find out.
I'm gonna take that as a good thing.
Okay.
They're, at this point, becoming incredibly codependent. And their parents, wherein they were very excited about the fact that their children are finding these friends, becoming best friends, they're starting to get kind of concerned.
Well, yeah.
Yeah. Not just you're so close of friends that you're getting sick when she leaves, but they start to get nervous because it's the 50s, and they think that maybe our girls are getting too close.
Yeah. Might have caught the gay.
Pauline's parents, the Ripers, which I'm probably saying that wrong,
That's
but
okay.
we're going to call them the Ripers, and if it's not, you'll tell me, I'm sure, in the comments. But Pauline's parents, in particular, were getting very, very concerned that they were possibly lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
Which, it's the 50s. That's not only, at least in America and in the UK, I'm not sure about New Zealand, but probably because it was a UK-based, like a colony, that was probably illegal.
Probably.
And it was definitely a mental illness.
Mm-hmm.
So not only are they worried that their children are committing a crime, but they are probably crazy and definitely going to hell.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I would be more concerned that the coming up with their own religion would put them in hell before being lesbians.
Well, in their religion, it probably was fine.
I would assume.
They adamantly deny. I don't want to get too far ahead here, but they do adamantly deny that they were in a sexual relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to believe them because in 2020, like, why lie?
Mm-hmm.
Especially, they tell the truth about everything else, so why lie about that? But maybe there's some sort of something going on there. But I'm going to believe that they were not sleeping together. Regardless, their parents are worried that they're sleeping together. To the point where, during the summer holiday, the summer vacation, in 1953, Pauline was not invited over to stay at Elam. Which, I feel so bad. That sucks.
Yeah.
I get it. Kinda. Like, I understand.
There's reason behind why it happened, but, you know, you can understand the reason and still feel bad for the girls.
Yeah, as a 15-year-old, that sucks. Not being able to see your best friend, especially when, for the last 5 years, you've been staying over with them. You've been hanging out at this estate, this fancy house. Things start to accelerate. Things start to come to a head. Oh, wait, you have slides.
Yeah.
Let's look at these slides. Sorry, I forgot. Slide number 1.
Let me guess. This one, it's Pauline.
This is Pauline Parker.
It just looked right.
Left is Pauline. Middle in that other picture is Pauline.
Yes.
If I were her mother and somebody was like, because that right picture looks like it's her and like classmates sitting for like a school picture.
Yeah.
If I paid for that and that's what my kid did, like that down-turned face, not even looking at the camera,
Yeah.
I'd be furious.
I know.
We just were at Ken and Kathy's house yesterday looking at pictures, and I took a whole bunch with me. I'll have to send you versions of them because they're so cute, because a lot of them are tiny Ryan. But Ryan hits a point in junior high. He's killing a box.
Yeah. Important.
Killing it dead. She'll be next episode. But Ryan hits a point in junior high where he just, like, quits smiling.
Yeah.
He refuses to smile at the camera at all. And he's like a little turd about it. Every picture, I'm like, if I were Kathy, I would be so mad at you. Because, like, even his school pictures, which then I had to text Ashley, hello, Ashley, you are listening, to get the picture of her son, Dylan.
Oh, yes.
There's a famous picture at this point. I show everybody. Dylan was told he didn't want to get his picture taken, and he was told he didn't have to smile, but he should at least get the picture taken because it would be a memory for his mother. And so he just looks, arms crossed, face down turned, just furious. Just furious. But it is a memory. Ryan's pictures, he just looks like, please never look at me. Why are you looking at me? This is the worst. But if I were a Nora Parker Riper, I would be like, hey, Pauline, what is this picture?
Yeah.
Why do you look so furious? So there's Pauline.
Okay.
Slide number 3, the next slide over. This is Juliet.
Oh, wow. Markedly less angsty.
Less angsty. She's got a little bit of like some cottagecore vibes there with her picture of her and the flowers.
Yeah.
She's out just picking flowers. That middle picture there and that picture we just saw on the left for Pauline, that is what is used like in everything about them. It's those two pictures together. Sure. And if you look at the next slide, we're like zipping through these, but the next slide is pictures of the two of them. Pauline with the little babushka headscarf and Juliet looking like a model.
Yeah.
In a very nice tailored skirt set.
Yeah.
But they definitely are a mood.
Oh, they really are. I mean, it does remind me of us.
Yeah, I would be the babushka one.
Yeah, I didn't want to say it, but...
I'm all about comfort. One question I have for Juliet in particular here is, it looks like one shoe has a strap and one shoe doesn't. What's that about?
I think it might just be motion blur. And of course, in the second photo, you can't see because her foot's back. But I totally get what you mean.
Just what an incredible look. I'm so down for
I
both.
know. I love the, like, mock turtleneck.
Yes, the, like, high-necked. I also don't know what's going on with Pauline's chin.
Yeah.
Like, it almost looks like...
Like she had a sore tooth or something?
I thought it looked like she put her mask down.
Oh, her COVID mask?
Yeah, her 2020 COVID mask fashion. Yeah. I don't know. I also don't know when these pictures were taken. I assume they were taken after they gained notoriety. So maybe that was like something she was putting over her face so that she wasn't being photographed.
Maybe.
I'm not sure. But she did a bad job if that's what that was.
Right.
Because they gotcha. There's another couple of these, but I figured 2 was enough of this same outfit. Everything starts to accelerate and come to a head. The beginning of 1954. In 1954, Juliet's parents separated. That was the start. They separated because her mother was having an affair.
Yikes.
And then also, her father was having some issues at work. Not sure what exactly was going on because I didn't read the book, but something was going on that caused him to end up resigning. I don't know if it was like a combination of my daughter might be a lesbian and is creating her own religion and my wife is having an affair.
Yeah.
And that is showing up in my work.
Maybe. Can't imagine why.
I can't. These parents.
I know. Get it together.
Regardless, they're separating. Her dad is quitting his job. He's resigning his job. So what is keeping them in New Zealand? Because they moved here to take this job.
Right. They
are from England. They are not Kiwis. They are from England. So you don't have a job. What's keeping you there?
Nothing.
I feel like this is every 15-year-old's worst nightmare. Is that you're going to move away from your best friend.
Yeah.
And in this case, it's the 50s, and you're going to move across the world to England.
Not like you can just FaceTime.
No. We don't live in the same state even, but we can FaceTime.
Right.
Although we have established we are not as close as these two were.
Yeah.
We'll keep working on it.
Yep. Maybe one day.
We'll start our own religion. Don't worry about it. We'll get there. So they're going to go back to England. The Hulmes decide to.
Yeah.
They're going to go to England, but Juliet is not going to go to England. They are going to send her to South Africa.
Oh, goodness.
To live with relatives. The idea there, I think, was it'll be good for your health. England is rainy. You have tuberculosis. You need dry heat, I guess. I, as we have established, know nothing about tuberculosis clearly because I didn't know if it could resurface.
Yeah, I'm thinking like maybe it shows up in like how mono does. I don't know.
Ooh, possibly. Or like,
yeah.
Again, ME does. ME flares up and then goes into like remission. I'm just desperately waiting for mine to go into remission, please. So now they're facing not only separation, but you're going to go to South Africa. The whole way to South Africa. A different continent. A different whole thing. So originally, the plan was that Pauline would also go to South Africa.
I'm sure the family was thrilled at that idea.
Well, the Holmes family was.
Kind of moving up.
Well, the Holmes family is Juliet's family. Juliet's family seemed fine. Although, I don't know if they were doing that parent thing of like, well, we'll see. We'll see if you can bring your friend to South Africa with you.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I don't know if they were actually going to go through with this.
Right.
Regardless, whether the Holmes family was going to let her go or not, Honora Riper was not going to allow Pauline to go.
Right.
I wouldn't either.
Yeah, I don't think I would.
Even if you weren't, like, obsessed with each other and writing your own religion. They even gave each other nicknames. And it's not even nicknames like, I don't know, I'll call you Crash and you call me, like,
Tippy.
Tiny. Yeah. It was, Pauline's nickname was Gina and Juliet's nickname was Deborah.
It's like fully different names.
Fully different names, which, I mean, we have that. We have an entire chat where everybody has a different name because we're like old Long Island women.
That's true.
But that's a character.
Yeah.
You're Juanita.
I am. I don't remember. I can never remember anybody's names in that chat. I always have to look. I'm like, wait, who's who?
Yeah. I'm Shannon and you're Juanita. But we're not calling each other those names
outside of that context.
Exactly. And like Pauline would write in her diary and like call Juliet Deborah in that even. So they are so incredibly codependent and also just like, if I'm the parent, I'm looking at this as like they're having a break from reality. Like they are having some sort of break.
Yeah.
So Pauline is not going to go.
Right.
So the girls decide the only thing that is keeping us from being together is Honora. And the only thing that can stop her and can make her change her mind is if we kill her. And then we will go to South Africa and then go to America and we will publish our writing because logic.
Right.
Oh, the next slide is Pauline on the left and Honora, her mother, on the right.
Okay.
She's a little younger here than in the actual crime, but that's Pauline on the left. I told you Pauline wrote a diary. And she wrote in it a lot about the plan for killing her mother, Honora.
Yikes.
She didn't write the word murder. She would write it Moidering, moitering. Gonna moiter her. They think that was kind of like a joke.
I hope not. Ugh.
The prosecution used that as a joke. They took it to be a joke. Let me read you some excerpt. 2 nights before they carried out this murder, spoiler alert, they did murder her. That's why we're talking about them. If they just planned it, might not be talking about them. 2 nights before they murdered her, Pauline wrote, quote, We discussed our plans for moitering Mother and made them a little clearer. Peculiarly enough, I have no qualms of conscience. Or is it peculiar we are so mad?
I mean, I think it's the latter.
Yeah. She has no qualms of conscience. Ugh. It just makes me sick. Like, this whole thing makes me feel bad.
I agree.
For everyone involved.
I don't know. I don't know why. I don't know what it is about it. I have no idea. But this is the first thing that we've recorded that's actually making me feel queasy.
You didn't get queasy at the tea cakes and soap?
No.
I got queasy during the entirety of the Spider-Man, because the idea of someone living in my walls is just...
Yeah.
Bleh.
No, but I think because I have such a tight-knit relationship with my family, probably. Mm-hmm. Like, the concept of, like, anything happening like this in my family just, ooh, no. Like, I can't even say it.
Yeah. I mean, I've had conflict with my own mother, who I love and I'm very close with, but I've never once been like, well, I'll just kill her. Like, no. Exactly. Never, ever, ever have I said, oh, my mom won't let me do that thing, I'll just kill her. Lovely. She wrote a lot in there. They murder her in July. All the way back as far as February, they're talking about killing her.
Wow.
Yes. February 13th, Pauline writes, as usual, I woke at 5 and managed to write a considerable amount. I felt depressed at the thought of the day. There seemed to be no possibility of Mother relenting and allowing me to go to Elam. This afternoon, Mother told me I could not go to Elam again until I was 8 stone and more cheerful. As I am now 7 stone, there is little hope. She is so unreasonable. Why could Mother not die? Dozens of people are dying. Thousands are dying every day. So why not Mother and Father, too?
Oh, my God.
So, this is the idea of you are too skinny. You are having a break from reality.
For anyone curious, a stone is approximately 15 pounds.
Yeah, so she wants her to gain like 15 pounds.
Yeah.
And quit being depressed. I want you to not be so codependent.
Right.
She is being a very reasonable mother.
Yeah.
I think maybe when I was 15 and read this, I might feel a little bit different, but probably not to the point of like, oh yeah, murder your mom. Mm-hmm. It's fine. Just do that. It's totally fine. She's writing again and again and again about killing her mom. In April, she says, I did not tell Deborah of my plans for removing Mother, Deborah being Juliet. The last fate I wish to meet is one in a borstal. I'm trying to think up some way. I do not want to go to too much trouble, but I want it to appear either a natural or an accidental death. I believe a borstal sounds like a prison to me, contextually.
Yep, it Google says youth detention center.
Okay, so she says, I don't want to kill my mom just to end up in juvie.
Right.
But this is all the way back in April. She's talking about killing her mom. But she's not telling Juliet about it yet.
Right.
This is very premeditated.
Oh.
I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry to be telling you this horrible thing, but I'm also not that sorry. That's kind of the whole point of this.
Well, yeah.
Sorry, she murders her in June, not July. I was wrong. June. Still, February and April are still quite a ways away.
Yeah.
So in 1954, June 22nd, Honora goes for a walk with Pauline and Juliet.
Okay.
And they go through Victoria Park in Christchurch. Before they go, like, on the actual little trail or whatever, they go to this little tea kiosk, and they have some food and a drink.
Okay.
And they go for a nice little walk in the woods. And they get about 430 feet, or 130 meters, down the path. And suddenly, Juliet and Pauline, they pull out of their handbag a half a brick enclosed in an old stocking.
Oh.
Bad way to die.
Totally looks like an accident. Like, what? She just went on about how she didn't want to end up in a detention center. Ah, yeah, you know what's real inconspicuous? Inconspicuous? Rocks and socks.
Yeah. Bricks in stockings.
Mm-hmm.
Half a brick. I don't know why only half.
Probably because one brick, like a whole brick, would be too heavy.
Well, another quote I saw said that partway through the bludgeoning, it ripped a hole in the stocking and the brick came out.
Yeah, I would imagine.
And these aren't like pantyhose.
They're nylon.
Well, they're not nylons at this point.
No?
I imagine it's like a silky stocking. Like I don't think that it's going to be like what you get today for 25 cents in the little eggs at the store.
No.
I think this was like an actual stocking.
Mm-hmm.
At least I hope, because I don't think anyone would be dumb enough to be like, this will work. A stocking.
Yeah.
Like a normal nylon stocking. I don't know.
My first thought was definitely, wouldn't that rip? And it did, so there you go.
But not before they had really kind of beat her. So the next slide is where this happened. The trail and the little bridge. So very secluded. They had time and privacy to do this thing.
Yeah.
They were originally planning to not use a brick in a stocking. The night before the murder, Pauline writes in her diary, Deborah rang and we decided to use a brick in a stocking rather than a sandbag.
A sandbag?
They're 15.
Yeah.
They're not smart.
And I've kind of been thinking this as you're telling me, like, at 15, where was I and what was I doing, and...
What would I have killed my mother with at 15?
No.
No.
No. But, you know, my logic and how dumb I was at 15.
And 15 is the age where I think you really start thinking, like, I'm grown.
Right. It's like the whole Disney movie, Mom, I'm 13. I'm an adult now.
Yeah.
Kind of thing.
Now almost 30. I am almost 30, and this was half a lifetime ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
I have grown another 15 years, and then also like another 45, I guess. But so she says, we decided not to use a sandbag. We discussed the moiter fully. I feel very keyed up, as if I were planning a surprise party. So the next time I write in the diary, Mother will be dead. How odd, yet how pleasing.
Ugh.
Upsetting.
I feel so bad for her mom.
I do too. Because all she was trying to do was...
protect her.
Yes. And do what is honestly best for her daughter.
Right. Like, this wasn't like a mommy dearest situation.
No. Not at all. Not at all. It was a, like...
You're sick. This isn't good for you.
Yes.
Yeah. It was genuine. She was genuinely trying her best.
Yes. Horrible. And I can understand that she's keyed up, but she is keyed up as if she was planning a surprise party. So she's like excited.
Yeah.
The morning of the killing, she wrote, I am writing a little of this up before the death. I feel very excited, and the night before Christmassy last night. I did not have pleasant dreams, though. I am about to rise.
I wonder why.
Yeah. But, like, she's feeling like she's planning a surprise party, or she's feeling the night before Christmas-y. Like, I can't wait to get up and see what I'm getting for Christmas. I can't wait to get up and have Christmas. I can't wait to wake up and murder my mother.
Yeah.
How odd, yet how pleasing. Just something is wrong.
Oh, yeah.
Something is wrong. So yeah, this says before they left, Juliet found a half brick, and when she arrived at the Parker house, she gave it to Pauline.
Okay.
In secret. And they had lunch, then they went out for a walk. Okay. And they stopped at this tea kiosk and had tea. They started walking, and then about 30 minutes later, Pauline and Juliet come running out of the woods. If you go to your next slide, this is the tea kiosk. They come running out of the woods, and they run up to the couple that owned the tea kiosk. They were the Richies. Kenneth and Agnes Ritchie owned the shop. So they come running up to the Richies, and Pauline yells, please help us. Mother has fallen and hit her head on a rock and is covered in blood. I think she is dead. Everything I have read said that they came running out of the woods just drenched in blood, just covered.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So Mom fell and hit her head, and for some reason we're covered in blood.
Right.
Mr. Ritchie went with them, or went on his own and found her. And they said that she had been beaten about the head and neck. Her skull had been smashed. Oof. There were 45 injuries, mainly about her head and face. She did definitely not fall and hit her head 45 times on a rock.
Yeah. This is one of those things, like I said when we did the Denver Spider-Man, like how much conviction it takes to make that many blows.
Yeah. Well, one thing I read said, like, when the girls were talking about the killing, I think it was Juliet said that once we had hit her once, we knew we had to kill her.
Mm-hmm.
Because, like...
She would talk.
Well, not that she would talk, but that the blow to the head, it was almost, I think, like, we have to kill her because it's now merciful, I think. Was the thought. Traumatic brain injuries are no joke. But you are the cause of this. Like, you are the one who is doing the thing. The investigators arrive, and they find these injuries, they find everything that's going on, and they find a bloodstained brick by her head and a stocking with the foot missing, knotted at the ankle.
Mm-hmm.
So they know she didn't hit her head, obviously.
Right.
They go to Alam, where the two girls are.
Mm-hmm.
And first they ask Pauline what happened. Pauline says, we were walking up the track, having been to the bottom. I was leading, and Mother and Deborah were behind me. Mother suddenly slipped and fell. She twisted sideways and hit her head on a rock or something. She seemed to keep tossing up and down and hitting her head.
I mean, in my head, I'm like, okay, maybe you could get hit with enough force to cause you to seize. But that would be the only thing. The only thing I can logic.
And if your mother falls and hits her head and then starts seizing, are you not going to, like, run up to help her?
Right.
Or are you just going to stand there and let her keep hitting her head?
Yeah.
I don't think so.
No.
But they know, like, the cops have to know at this point that that's not what happened.
Mm-hmm. And, I mean, I've witnessed people seizing before, and it's not... I don't think that there would be enough force to cause the kinds of wounds that she had. Like, I don't think her seizing would be as violent.
I'm not sure, but it doesn't matter because the girls confess. The
Right.
girls have it all written down. We know it was them. It's not like this story holds any water in it.
Oh, sure. I'm just saying, like, for the validity of their excuse, it's like, nope, try again.
Exactly. Would you like to change your story?
Right.
That happened once. My cousin Jesse, who is like a couple months younger than me, when we were younger, he lost his house key, I think. And my uncle asked him about it, and he starts telling this story about how he lost his house key, and then he stopped, and he was like, can I change my story? And it's like, no, now that we definitely know everything's a lie. So they're like, okay, so she hit her head. What about that stocking?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, because maybe like the brick, maybe she hit her head on the brick and whatever.
Yeah.
There's a brick in the woods, not that weird, but the stocking. So she said, we didn't take my mother's stockings off. I was wearing sockets. I had an old stocking in my bag, and I used it to wipe up the blood.
Not the worst excuse, but...
I have really weird stuff in my bag, so I can't say whether that's weird or not. Also, I love sockets.
Mm-hmm.
What are sockets? Like little bobby socks.
I would think so. Yeah.
She's wearing little bobby socks in that picture
Mm-hmm.
that I showed you earlier, so maybe that kind of thing. So then they get Juliet in, and they are like, okay, what happened? And Juliet tells the same story. So they're sticking to, she fell and she hit her head and she hit her head and she hit her head and she hit her head.
Yeah.
Which no one's believing. So then the senior detective gets Pauline again and tells her basically like, yo, I don't believe this is what happened.
Right.
And so Pauline starts telling the real story. They ask, who assaulted your mother? And she says, I did. They said, why? And she says, if you don't mind, I won't answer that question.
Okay.
So I assume New Zealand also has the like...
The Fifth. Not in so many words, but...
Yeah, they probably don't call it the Fifth Amendment, but we
sure.
Here in America, for those who don't know, or for those who have heard it and just don't know what it means, the Fifth Amendment to the Constitution protects your right to not self-incriminate.
Mm-hmm.
So when people say, I'm going to plead the Fifth, it means anything that I say is going to make me look guilty, so I'm not going to say anything.
Right.
One thing, though, and you find this in the OJ trial, if you plead the Fifth, you can't answer any questions. You don't just pick and choose what you want to answer.
Right. You can also find this in the Epstein trial.
Mm-hmm. If you choose to not answer because of your Fifth Amendment rights, you can't answer anything.
Right.
So you can't even defend yourself. Like, you just can't say anything. So then they said, when did you make up your mind to kill your mother? And she claims a few days ago. Now, we know that's not true. We know she's been planning this since February, a long time.
I have, like, Maury Povich, and we know that's a lie.
Our lie detector has proven that that was a lie. They ask, like, did anybody know what you were going to do? And she says, like, no, Juliet had nothing to do with it. Juliet didn't know anything about this. She wasn't even around. She was elsewhere when I did this myself. She said, I wish to state that Juliet did not know of my intentions. She did not see me strike my mother. I took the chance to strike my mother while Juliet was away. I still do not wish to say why I killed my mother. I don't know if she is saying that because she thinks it will incriminate Juliet as well.
Right. That's what I'm thinking. Because it would give motive.
She says Juliet knew nothing about it, and as far as I know, she believed what I told her, although she may have guessed what had happened. But I doubt it, as we were both so shaken that it probably did not occur to her. As soon as I started to strike my mother, I regretted it, but could not stop then. Yeah. That's another really sad thing is, based on what I have read of later life, I think this might have been one of those things that you do as a child or as a young person that is kind of to the extreme here, but where you think the only way to solve this is to do this thing, and then as soon as you do this untake-backable thing, and not only children do this, but adults do this as well. As soon as you do that thing, you immediately regret it.
Yeah.
And this can be something as tiny as, like, my Aunt Prissy, who, when her hair is having a bad hair day, will just cut off what looks stupid.
Oh, no.
And it's like, Aunt P, what are you doing? Your hair. And that's sort of like a less high stakes as killing your own mother.
Yeah.
So then they search Pauline's house and they find her diary.
Of course.
And then they went and talked to Juliet. So then Juliet says, quote, we went to a spot well down one of the paths, and Mrs. Parker decided to come back. On the way back, I was walking in front. I was expecting Mrs. Parker to be attacked. I heard noises behind me. It was loud conversation in anger. I saw Mrs. Parker in some sort of a squatting position. They were quarreling. I went back. I saw Pauline hit Mrs. Parker with the brick in the stocking. I took the stocking and I hit her too. I was terrified. I thought that one of them had to die. I wanted to help Pauline. It was terrible. Mrs. Parker moved convulsively. We both held her. She was still when we left her. The brick had come out of the stocking with the force of the blows. I cannot remember Mrs. Parker saying anything distinctly. I was too frightened to listen. After the first blow was struck, I knew it would be necessary to kill her. Dang. That's all I can say.
Yeah, honestly.
Like, I think based on that and what Pauline has said, there was, like, immediate regret. But you can't just stop, I guess. You could have just not done it in the first place.
Right.
This went to trial. They've both confessed. They have the diary, everything. And it went to trial.
Right.
The trial took 5.5 days.
Not too long.
Not too long at all. And this is the point where Pauline was Pauline Riper. Her mom was Honora Riper, and they'd been living with her father, Herbert. But it was revealed that they weren't married. So during the trial, Honora and Pauline were referred to by Parker. It was very sensational, obviously. The defense tried to say that they were insane.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like that would be probably the best
defense.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's not like you don't have stuff to back it up.
Yeah, quite frankly.
Yeah, you've got this whole, like, I think in the 50s, if you were like, they created their own religion, it would be like, whoa.
Yeah, like they had totally different personas and all of this stuff.
However, though, the prosecution was basically like, no, don't take this for insanity. They're just, like, dirty-minded girls. They're girls that are doing everything that they're doing because it's kind of like they made their own religion, so they must be like Satanists almost, right. But not that kind of prosecution.
Yeah.
So they were convicted in August of 1954, but because they were 15 and 16 respectively, they were too young for the death penalty. And they spent 5 years in prison each.
That's not a lot.
It's not. And that's a lot of, like, young criminals like this, you see them get, like, short sentences.
Yeah.
And then, like, here in the States, which this is different now, but at a certain point in time, it was like, okay, you're going to be tried as a child, and you're going to go and serve a short sentence. And then when you get out, all that's going to be sealed.
Right.
Like, Ed Kemper had the same thing, and
Yep.
Craig Price, a lot of that. But this was in New Zealand, and they only got 5 years in prison with no death penalty.
Mm-hmm.
There was a rumor that they were told, basically, like, you can be released as long as you never see each other again. But the Secretary for Justice said there wasn't a condition like that. Like, that wasn't a thing.
Yeah, because that would be hard to enforce, frankly.
To my knowledge, though, they didn't hang out after this.
I could understand that. Because
can too.
after you get a little bit older and you have that brain development and you've been able to realize what it is that has happened.
And they've both said that they, like, regretted it.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. Maybe you don't want to be with that person that you've had this traumatic experience with.
Yeah.
Especially if they're 15 and 16, they spend 5 years in prison. They're like 20 when they get out.
Mm-hmm.
Between 15 and 20, I think your frontal cortex isn't fully developed till 25.
25 or 23, somewhere in there. Yeah.
That's your decision making and logical part of your brain.
Yeah.
Juliet gets out of prison and she goes to live with her dad in Italy.
Mm-hmm.
And Pauline was on parole in New Zealand, after which she left.
Okay.
Both of them changed their names.
Mm-hmm.
Next slide here. Left is Pauline,
Mm-hmm.
who now goes by Hilary Nathan.
Mm-hmm.
Right is Juliet, who now goes by Anne Perry.
Mm-hmm.
Here is where it gets interesting, a little bit interesting. Hilary Nathan, Pauline Parker Riper, left, now lives in England.
Mm-hmm.
She is, I think, 81 now. She's in her 80s at this point. They're both in their 80s.
Yeah.
But she lives in Kent, in England, and she ran, or in the 90s at least, ran a children's riding school.
Oh.
She became a devout Roman Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
And she has never spoken to the press about this.
Right.
Which is fine. Like, I feel bad for her mother, but I also feel bad for these girls.
Yeah. Yeah, this is probably the case we've talked about where I have the most sympathy for the perpetrators.
Yes, because I think they did something rash
Mm-hmm.
and then had regrets. Which, I said about this earlier, but she's never spoken to the press, but her sister did speak for her.
Mm-hmm.
In 96. Her sister said, quote, "She committed the most terrible crime and has spent 40 years repaying it by keeping away from people and doing her own little thing. After it happened, she was very sorry about it, and it took her about 5 years to realize what she had done."
Mm-hmm.
That sucks.
It really does.
But that's what she's doing. And Anne Perry, if you go to your next slide, Juliet now goes by Anne Perry.
Huh.
And she spent time in England and the United States, but now she is a very successful detective novelist.
Wow. That's a twist.
Very, very big twist. Like, you can read about crime, fake crime, but crime, from someone who killed someone.
Yeah.
It wasn't known for a long time until the 90s that they were the same person.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, people were reading all these books, and then it was like, oh, huh, turns out.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anne Perry, formerly Juliet Hulme, has been a Mormon since the 60s.
Oh, wow.
And she has, because she has spoken about the crime.
Mm-hmm.
In 2006, she stated that while her relationship with Pauline was obsessive, they were not lesbians.
Mm-hmm.
So, like I said, if you're gonna confess to a murder,
right,
why not confess to being lesbians as well if that was actually happening? But I don't think it was.
Yeah, and I believe it. I genuinely believe that they weren't involved romantically.
Yeah, I do too.
Because you can have those sort of obsessive tendencies in teens without there being any romance.
Yeah, I think it's like I said with us about BFF soulmates,
Mm-hmm.
right? Or I will call you my wife.
Yeah.
But we're not actually romantic. Like, we're
Right.
not, I don't want to sleep with you.
Man.
I love you.
My feelings are hurt.
I told you we're not on the same level. They are on a higher plane. They are in the fourth world.
Yeah.
They are in a different dimension.
Yeah, no kidding.
So this case was very sensational. Lots of people heard about it. And if you go to your next slide, the book on the left, So Brilliantly Clever by Peter Graham, has been on my list for a while to read, and I just haven't.
Sure.
And on the right, you will see that Angela Carter wrote a screenplay in the 90s called The Christchurch Murder, and that was a big influence for Peter Jackson of The Lord of the Rings to make a film called Heavenly Creatures starring Kate Winslet and Melanie Linsky. There's also a ton of other things that this has influenced and other versions of this that have been dramatized, but those are the two pieces of media that I think are the most like well known. And that is the story of Parker and Hulme.
Wow.
Terrible.
Very terrible and sad in a way that is new for us on this little podcast.
Yeah, we usually can get a lot of goofs in, and I think we did, but also, like, this is our reflection time. Also, can I say, Juliet / Anne, even, like, as a young person and as an older woman, her eyebrows are so great.
Yeah. She's just beautiful.
Yeah, I was looking at her picture here on the cover of So Brilliantly Clever.
It's interesting to see, too, how differently both of them kind of recovered.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so clearly Juliet's sort of thriving, and Pauline not so much. You know,
Pauline is definitely living a life on the back burner. Yeah. She's living a quiet life.
A bit more reclusive.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
But the fact that Anne Perry became a writer, like, that was their plan the whole time, was to write and to become novelists.
Right.
I've never read an Anne Perry book, and maybe I will.
Neither have I, but I've definitely seen them. You know, I mean, I do work in a library, and they are, you know, New York Times bestsellers. Some of them, I've seen them on our board. So that's kind of crazy. Maybe
I'll have to pick up one and have a read, which does lead us perfectly into, what are you reading? What are you recommending? You're still reading about your Italian witchcraft? Yeah, I haven't really made a whole lot of headway on that because we've had a lot going on. But I'm just making my way through it. So, because I'm calling this section, what are you reading? What are you recommending? Do you have any books to recommend? Maybe that you're not necessarily reading, but maybe that you think people should pick up?
Let me think. Well, so I mentioned in our last cast that we had gone on vacation recently, and my dad asked me to pick up Code Girls for him by, I believe it's Liza Mundy. That's Mundy. And it's something that I read last summer, and I really loved. I read a lot of nonfiction. So it's a nonfiction novel about the female code breakers of World War II.
Is this like a Bletchley Circle style thing?
Sort of. Yeah, okay. So they talk about the girls and their lives, you know, and what they were doing, and, you know, they kind of lived in, like, dormitories and stuff, so it talks, you know, all about that, and it's really good. So I'd say I picked it up for my dad so he could read on vacation, and he was really enjoying it as well, so I'm going to recommend that one. It's one of my favorites.
I've never read it, but it sounds like something I would enjoy.
I just love, like, women in history. You know.
I have a book that maybe I'll give to you that's all about women spies.
Ooh, yeah, that's right up my alley.
Yeah, I'll set that aside for you.
Perfect.
I am currently reading, it is called Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. It is an adult fantasy, and it is kind of like a retelling of the Rumpelstiltskin spinning straw into gold. It's very, very good. The main character is a Jew, so it's nice to see that kind of representation. It takes place I don't know if it takes place in Russia, but it takes place in a sort of Russia, because again, it is a fantasy. But I'm very much enjoying it. I'm tearing through it. I have the audiobook, and then I also used my library app, Libby, to take out the ebook version of it so that when I'm not listening to it, I can read it.
Yeah.
And sort of like, I like to tag team books like that a lot too.
I like to do that too. And that's part of the reason that I have not been able to move on and finish my book, is because there is no audiobook version. So
I am reading and recommending Spinning Silver by Naomi Novik. Very good. It's a very good book.
Yeah.
Would you like to wrap this boy up?
Yeah, so you can find us online on most of the biggest platforms, Instagram, Twitter. We've created a TikTok account. We are Briefcase Crimes everywhere, fortunately.
Mm-hmm.
We also have a coffee account if you feel so inclined to support us and what we're doing here. You can find us anywhere online under Briefcase Crimes.
And there you can find links to the brief. You can find reminders for when things are going up. You can see behind the scenes photos. Mm-hmm. You can see pictures of Hazel.
We've got audio teasers for our episodes.
Mm-hmm. We're trying to do, because we've had some questions and some interest in this, we are attempting to put the photos not just in the brief, mm-hmm. but with the links, because in the brief you'll find all the photos and you'll also find the links and some other like little doodads, like some information about like when they were born, when they died, those kinds of things. But we're trying to put the slides up on, I think, primarily Instagram and Facebook, where you can just sort of flip through them in the order that they occur mm-hmm. in the episode.
Yeah.
So look for that if you're interested. Also, just going to those social media accounts and following or liking mm-hmm. Really helps us out, as well as, subscribing, rating.
Yeah, rate us,
commenting,
thumbs up us wherever you're listening. Any positive interaction is great.
Not only does that help us sort of please the algorithm gods, but we just really enjoy having any kind of interaction with people who are listening. Mm-hmm. It kind of helps us feel like we're kind of just hanging out with you guys as much as each other. We really enjoy that.
We do.
So comment, tell us your favorite part of the episode, or something maybe that you know about the case that I didn't cover.
If you want to request topics for future episodes,
please do. If there is a case that you have always enjoyed that maybe I've never heard of, let us know. Mm-hmm. I will say we don't cover things before, I would say, like the 80s. Mm-hmm. Is a little bit too new for us. But if there is something that we think is compelling, if we feel like it,
we might do it. Yeah,
we might do it. So
doesn't hurt.
I'm always looking for new cases. So please let us know, and let us know what you're reading.
Yeah,
I want to get recommendations from our listeners as well. So
with that, thank you for listening,
and we'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye. You yelled dragon.